Hey everyone, welcome to Small Business Strong. I'm your host, John Lane. And today we're going to be jumping into episode 10. Episode 10 is the start of something really cool that I'm excited about. Episode 10 marks the first episode that I'm going to be doing that is breaking down topics that tradesmen deal with on a day to day basis. And today, the topic is why most homeowners get ripped off by contractors and handymen. I have 6 reasons we're going to be talking about today, and I'm super excited to jump into these. So, we're just going to go ahead and get into it. Number one is they don't use a referred contractor or handyman. So, if you are a contractor or handyman, you know referrals are huge. If you've done work for someone and they've really just loved how you worked, from communication to how you did the job, leaving it cleaner than it was whenever you showed up, and then also just surpassing expectations, they are going to pass your name around. You know this. For homeowners, this is something huge to know. If you see someone's truck, call them and get an estimate and talk to them. But really, what you want to do is you want to have a referral. Put it on Nextdoor, put it out on Facebook. Hey, does anyone know a reliable contractor or handyman to tackle my project? It doesn't matter if it's adjusting a door or installing a mini split or remodeling your entire house. You want to have someone that is trusted. You want to have someone that knows what they're doing, and you want to have someone that's going to communicate with you. We're going to jump into some of these things more specifically. But yeah, my business is 100% through referrals. I like it that way because there's double sided accountability. I've mentioned this before, but there's accountability with my client. I know that they were referred to me by someone else. And so I know that they're good people. If I have any questions, I can talk to the person that referred them. And then my client knows, the new client knows that I did work for their friend, family member, whoever it was, and I did a good job. And so there's double sided accountability there. Highly, highly recommend referrals. The second reason most homeowners get ripped off by contractors and handymen is they choose the cheapest bid. I see this all the time. And my pricing structure, and I'll talk about this in another episode in pricing, but with my pricing, I'm not the most expensive and I'm not the least expensive. What I've done, the market research that I've done is I've called other larger handyman companies in the area and I've said, "Hey, my name is John. I'm looking to get a drywall patch done and a tub recalked. How much would you charge for that?" Or, "Hey, I'm looking, my front door squeaks. I need to get that adjusted." Or, "Hey, I need to hang a few blinds or replace the ceiling fan." And constantly, I make sure that my pricing falls somewhere in the middle. I do not want to be the cheapest because anytime you put something out on Facebook, "Hey, I need a ceiling fan hung," some guy will always do it for $25. And it's just, I laugh at it because I'm like, how can you do this? Like it costs $25 of just, I mean, fuel and wire nuts and anything else you use. Like, how can you do this? Since a lot of those guys just do it on the side. But I don't want to be the cheapest. And I don't want to be the most expensive. I don't want to take advantage of anybody. I want to show up, do my job, and leave. And that's all I want when a trade comes over to my house to fix something, whether it be a plumber, electrician, whatever it is. Yes, I still hire trades. I don't do absolutely everything myself, and I don't think it's wise to. If something's out of your comfort zone, I'd hire it out. But anyways, the cheapest bid is not always going to be the best. And I've talked to many clients about this, and most of them agree. Unfortunately, one of my clients, this was when I got started about 3 or 4 years ago. I was doing some work for them and they wanted me to paint cabinets. And so at the time, I had a really good painter who would paint cabinets for me. He's since got another job and has moved on. But so I gave her a quote, I think it was around $5,000 to repaint all of her kitchen cabinets. That's taking all the doors off, sanding everything down, priming everything, and then 2 coats of paint. And so, I think that was out of their budget at the time, so they settled for another bid. The other bid they got was $1,500, and the guy came in, didn't take off anything. I don't think he took off the doors or any hardware. I think he taped. Yep, because I remember, she sent me pictures when he did it. He taped off the kitchen and literally sprayed it, did not prep, did not sand, did not prime, did not wipe down with TSP, anything like that. How you're supposed to prep and paint cabinets, did not do that. And so obviously it took him probably half a day to do it. And she called me 3 months later and said, "Hey, the paint's chipping on my cabinets. I know you initially gave me a bid for $5,000. I went with someone cheaper and the paint's chipping. What do I do?" And I just said, "I am so sorry. Like there's nothing that can be done at this point. It does need to be you have two courses of action, right? You can either continue to paint touch up for the rest of the time that you have it, or you can also do it the right way, which is sanding everything down, stripping everything off, get to the base, make sure the base is roughed up, prime it correctly, and then go ahead and after you sand, you got to clean it with TSP, prime it, paint it, and make sure you use a high quality cabinet paint. That's the only way you're going to get good adhesion and a good finished job, and it's going to look smooth. So unfortunately, that was her story, and also unfortunately, there's many more stories like that, but that's the one I wanted to share for number 2, which is do not choose the cheapest bid. So let's move on to number 3. Number 3 is no clear scope of work. If you get a handyman or contractor that comes in and gives you a bid and let's just say you want closet doors replaced, a new faucet installed, and a ceiling fan hung. That's a fairly all common things. And the guy just says $600 on site. He just gives you a number. Well, say you didn't get him from a reference. So you don't even know what that entails. You don't know if you're providing materials, if he's providing materials. There's no clear course of action. Are you providing the ceiling fan or is he? There's nothing in right. When I submit an estimate, it's always formal. It Now there's a caveat. Sometimes if it's small or I'm super busy, I'll just send a quick text message. In that text message is always the scope of work and my next availability, because they can read one text message, check their calendar and say yes or no. But in this case, if there's no clear scope of work, absolutely would not hire that person. There needs to be a formal estimate, and if it's not written, it doesn't exist. I would act like if this were to end up in court, where would the evidence be? Like, would you win this case in court? That's why I try to have everything at least in text messages or emails. If it's not, it needs to be in a contract or a written formal estimate. That's huge. Let's move on to number 4 would be unrealistic expectations. So if you're wanting a high end result at a low cost, which honestly, who doesn't, right? We all want that. But cheap work means compromises. And I have to remember that myself. If I'm getting a guy to come replace my water heater and he's going to charge me $300, I'm wondering, okay, what is he compromising on? Versus if someone's going to come over here and charge me $1,500, what is he compromising on anything? Is that the average going rate? What is the going rate? So I do my research and I find out. But I always want to share that cheap work means compromises somewhere. And you have to ask, say, hey, where are you getting this water heater? Is this a used water heater? I mean, these are dumb questions, but you have to ask them sometimes if someone's giving you a bid that low. So number 5, really the last one. I did say 6, but some of these kind of go into each other with communication. The last one is poor communication, but so you're going to want your contractor to, when he gets there on site, he's going to have to walk you through verbally the process, but also in the formal estimate too. Like if a contractor get there and he just shakes his head and says, yes, 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 I can do it. That's no problem. You know, you need him to explain to you the process. Hey, our guys are going to come in. Day 1 is masking everything off. We're going to mask off vertical. We're going to do paper everywhere on all the door openings. We're going to do paper on the floor. We're going to do plastic here. We're going to be sealing off bedrooms with tape that are not going to be touched. This is what we're going to do. We're going to start by removing all the ceiling fans day 2, and then we're going to get all the plumbing fixtures out. We're going to start knocking down walls, like whatever they're going to be doing, whether it's a bathroom remodel, whole house remodel, or whether they're again, just doing something small like a ceiling fan. Hey, I'm going to come in. If it is a ceiling fan, I'm going to come in and I'm going to put a moving blanket down first, which is usually what I do. And then I use my step ladder, get up there, take the old one down, disassemble it, put it in your dumpster out back. And then I'd like the new one to be on site, ready to go so I can install it. Communication is everything, but so it starts at the estimate when you go to the job site and look at the job. It continues all the way until the job is finished, and then post job finish, if you ask for a review, it continues there. And so after that initial estimate, you will expect to hear from your contractor or handyman via text, email, however they send you the formal estimate, and then any questions you have, ask away. This is super important. I've been on the receiving and on the giving end of that. So on the receiving end, like I've had someone come over and just give me a price on the spot and never heard from them again. I'm like, okay, well, I don't know if they're going to send me a formal estimate, and so I have to follow up on them. And I've also been with my business so busy or just have excuses into why I can't or didn't do it. Really, just didn't do it. There's no excuse. Yeah. So some homeowners might not ask questions. I would always encourage homeowners to ask questions. This is huge. Anything that's left to the unknown is could potentially be a spot where the work could be compromised. So let's see, it was probably 2 weeks ago or so. No, it was a little longer than that, maybe a month. I was at a client's house and she had a whole house remodel. Well, this was 2 or 3 years later, and she was having some baseboards get scratched. I don't know if it was a dog or if her kid was pulling them off or whatever, but it revealed that the baseboards were MDF, and she was like, I thought I got wood ones, but I didn't really know. I kind of assumed that he put in wood baseboards, not MDF. She was like, "Hey, can you just patch these?" And I said, "Unfortunately, like MDF is super hard to patch. It does not take very well to Bondo, and I would recommend replacing with solid wood." And it was just a couple small sections. And I said, "Hey, if, I want to save you some money. We can just do those couple small sections, not to do the whole area or the whole house." But that's an example of something that was poorly communicated, and really miscommunications. I always say is a 50-50 thing. Both parties have to take ownership. The homeowner did not ask, and the contractor did not specify. Another good thing to ask is what's included, what's not included, and what happens if things change. Some handymen do not like change orders. I don't mind because it happens all the time. Most of the time, if I have a punch list to get to at a client's house when I show up, most of the time they've added 3 or 4 things on there. If I have time, I get to it that day. If I don't, I always reschedule, and I'm usually 2 to 3 weeks out. That's just kind of how it works. But so with poor communication, again, this goes back to number 3, which is no clear scope of work. Everything must be written down. Everything has to be written down. That's why, for me, text messages has been huge. It's been my saving grace a lot of times because I'll go back and scroll up and read. Um, Also, with formal estimates, those are huge too. I remember I think I've only blocked one client, maybe two, in the existence of my business. One, because they were, I think it was like a punch list of 11 or 12 things. They wanted me to do about 4 of the things. So I showed up, and I'd met her on site for the estimate. When I went back, her husband was there, never met him before, but within 5 minutes of me showing up, it was, you said this, you said you were going to do this, you said you're going to do that. At the time, I did no tile repair, only tile install. And so I just did not have the knowledge at the time. But the estimate was to silicone the shower. And so when I got there, she said, "No, you said you were going to regrout the whole shower." And I think the total was like $180. And I was like, "Look, I don't even regrout showers, but if I was going to regrout the shower, it would not be $180." And so I obviously did not have any sassy tone with her, but I was like, "Hey, like I don't even do this, but if I did do this," and she said, "No, you said, you said, you said." So I went back to the formal estimate and I said, "Look, this says re-siliconing the shower." And she's like, "Oh, okay. Well, okay." And she was frustrated because she tried to pull one on me, and I understood that. And so they tried to follow up with work multiple times, and I did a great job. They were happy. Also on that one, it was really interesting. Her husband, which goes with communication again. So on the estimate, I had repair or replace 2 cabinet hinges. And I ended up repairing both of them, I think, and it was like $120. And he said, "Are you still gonna charge me for it because you didn't have to replace it?" And I said, and I usually stick to my guns, but I could tell they were gonna be challenging to work with. So I said, "Hey, you know what? What do you want to pay for it?" And he said, $60, take half off. And I said, done. And so from that point on, so I wanted to make sure they were happy, and then I blocked them. And that's what I chose to do in the moment. I think, yeah, that's my only client I've ever had to block because he did try to follow up and want more work done, and I did not want to work with them. Um, I think those, yeah, those are the only 5 things. But yeah, so in summary, how to avoid getting ripped off is hire from a reference. This is paramount. So, so important that you guys hire from a reference. Do not pick the lowest bid automatically. Now, I will throw a caveat in there. Sometimes the lowest bid is fine, especially if it comes from a reference, but still check up, ask questions. What are the things that I provide? What are the things that you're providing? When are you going to be here? How long will it take? See what they, if they know what they're talking about. A lot of times clients ask me that, and I have to sit down, think about it, and ballpark. Okay, it'll probably take me 2 to 3 hours. If it's a, 3 or 4 item punch list, half a day. If it's 6 or 7 punch lists, usually that's a full day, but a good handyman or contractor will know exactly how long it'll take. Something that contractors are notorious for, especially when they're starting out, is undershooting the amount of time. And so I live here in Texas, so a lot of the labor that the guys bring in, a lot of them will go to Mexico for Christmas. And so that's something that if you're doing a remodel around Christmas, you have to expect. A lot of the guys will take off 2 weeks to go to Mexico. And so that's something that here there can be some pushback on. Again, it just goes back to communication, but ask your contractor or handyman, how long will this take? That shows you if they kind of know what they're talking about. Another thing is ask tons of questions up front. Pay attention to the communication. Do they take 24 hours to respond? Do they take 3 days to respond? I have a 24-hour rule. I have to respond within 24 hours. That's something that's huge. And so, and then let's see, the last thing would be, yeah, trust your instinct. So if something feels off, like I've had a bad gut feeling about things and it's worked out, and I've had a bad gut feeling about things and I've not done anything about it and it's not worked out. And I've also felt great about something and then been ghosted. So really pay attention. But I think with these 5 tactics you can use to really hone in on, hey, just focusing on not wanting to get ripped off and just to have a good experience. It's imperative that we focus on references. Do not always just choose the cheapest bid. Make sure you have a clear scope of work. Make sure you manage expectations, and then make sure that you communicate. And that goes back and forth. And challenge your contractor, challenge your handyman. Hey, communication's huge for me, and I really expect that from you. So I think with these tactics, you're less likely to get ripped off, and you're going to be more equipped. So that's everything I have today. Thank you so much for listening to Small Business Strong. Until next time.